Hello and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate podcast. Today we have Stephen Whiting from Street Text returning for a second time, and we're going to pick up and continue the conversation, dive a little bit deeper into leveraging technology to really enhance those client relationships. Stephen, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
It's great to have you here again. And I think I speak for David Corman because I saw the lights come on a little bit as well. But in our last podcast, we were talking about, really catching the consumer at the right time when they're making that decision to buy or sell, and helping answer some of the questions that they have as they go through that process, so you can pull them in at the right time and you can create engaging ads that have a much better response rate, right? So we wanted to dive deep. Certainly when you are able to do that, you see the engagement rate and you see the response rate completely change. You see people, jumping in, and you even witnessed that. And when you told us about the story when you first started, but let's talk about how you can use that process to really enhance those client relationships.
Sure. And it might even be helpful if I dive a little bit into the overall follow-up, how to get a conversation started. One of the things that we notice, especially when people first come to our platform or they start running ads for the first time on their own, and it works. Like I would say the aha moment is a lot of people go, they don't believe it's going to work. And then all of a sudden leads start showing up. But now you have a new problem, right? So the first problem you needed to do is, hey, I'm looking for somebody to talk to. But now I've got somebody to talk to. But now how do I turn that person that I'm talking to or isn't wanting to talk to me, right? Like there's a bit of that as well. How do I turn that person into somebody that I am talking to and ultimately an appointment and then a listing, or buy relationship? And so, just to kind of like bridge off of that for a second, there's so many ways, and if we have time, I can dive into all of them. There's obviously you can actually use ads to help you with that too. But one of the easiest things that you can do kind of right out of the gate is just leverage the technology that you probably already have. You might not even know it, but in almost every one of the CRMs or the other tools that you have, or even in our street text system, you can auto text people, you can auto email people, and you can do all of that based on the specific ad that they came in. And you can use tools even like ChatGTP to help you with some of that content. Like if you're not familiar with what to say, here's a great example. We have an agent that we were interviewing yesterday, and he has been on our platform. This is not usual. Like I would say he's an exception, but I'll share this for a second. So he's been on our platform since January, and he mentions to us that he's closed 5 people already. Like he's got under appointment, like listings that are like under contract. So we're like, wow, that is exceptionally fast, right? Like how did you go so quickly? So we invite him to our mastermind, and but he's busy. He doesn't have time to come to the mastermind, right? But he's nice enough to shoot us a quick video, a 10-minute video, and he kind of explains his process. So I can share some of that with you today. But one of the first initial things that we had was he must have a ton of leads, because if he's already got 5, he's probably spending a fortune on ads. He's got all these leads coming in, and that's why. I mean, he's probably got like a few thousand leads already, because I mean, it's a numbers game, right? The more leads you generate, the more you're going to talk to, and away you go. He's got 65 in his account. So the conversion rate already is abnormally high.
4%?
Well, I guess, but the timeline is so tight, right? Like, normally you would see, the industry average for converting leads and this is not a street text average. This is just like the industry average is 1.5%. And so that means like 98.5 of every lead you ever generate is literally going nowhere. And that's over a year. And he's doing this in like 1 month, and he's got a pretty high rate already. And so so we were like, wow, that's very impressive. So what are you doing? So anyways, he sends us this video, and it's so simple. So what he does is, so one of the ads as an example that he's running right now that he's loving is a downsizing ad. And a downsizing ad is a great ad to run because, you're marketing to a specific kind of persona on Facebook, somebody that owns their home, probably a little bit older, and they're maybe looking for something different, and they're looking to downsize. And so he's using that creative, and it's working. He's generating all these leads, but he didn't know what to say to them. So he goes to ChatGTP and he goes, I'm running a downsizing ad and I want to create 12 months worth of content for downsizers just to help them consider, if they're thinking about moving and what should I say? So, anyways, it creates all this content for him. He's using a tool called Lofty, but this would work for any CRM. And then he basically just goes in and puts on all that content. And then he asked it also for some text messages. And so it creates text messages for him. And so he puts those in. And then the lead comes in the downsizing ad and automatically gets his content. And then the two additional things that he's doing on top of that is based provided the lead comes in a certain time period, he will also call immediately, like within 2 minutes. He'll just do the first call. And then the other thing that I think he's doing that's really smart is he's got some nurturing text messages, but within the first 15 minutes, he's got a very unique text message that says customer or like lead's first name is this you question mark. And I'm gonna lose my voice 1 second.
I think Stephen is
And
just going a little bit of a cold.
yeah, I'm just getting over a cold. But anyways, that's his process. And between the chat GTP nurturing the leads and that initial call and that text message, he's getting those responses. So hopefully my voice will come back here in 1 second. But that's his process. And so that's a bit of a story kind of to open it up. But the thing is that, from lead to close, that's a real world example of what somebody did. And again, that's not rocket science. It's all custom built, but it's built from ChatGPT. But with the technology we have today, pretty easy to do.
And it's set up so he's go ahead and get your drink. I'll talk for a couple seconds. It's set up so the messages will go back within 15 minutes automatically. There'll be a communication that'll automatically go back whether he's there or not. It's set up so there's gonna be some response coming from him.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's looking for the feedback from there.
Well, I guess the key thing there is that you just have to have something engaging the person fairly quickly and then ongoing. There's another client and I love him dearly. He's been with the system a long time. And he often will ask me for some updates or some tips on converting leads. And I jump in and he's the complete opposite. He's got all these leads and I ask him, what are you doing with these? He's like, well, nothing yet. I'm thinking about what I should say to them. And it's just the complete opposite. So if you just need something that's engaging them, but never rely fully on the system. You still need to call them yourself or somebody in your team needs to call them. You need to engage with those leads. And it is a numbers game. But again, when it's working and you start to get some of those positive conversations and then you're turning them into something, it reinforces the process. And then what we can do is, if you have time, we can talk a little bit about what you can do with remarketing to help on that front too. But that's a very quick, straightforward process that even if you're from zero to hero, you can do it pretty easily thanks to technology today. Our system also does include an automation for each and every single ad. So if you have nothing and you don't even have that, then when you launch our ad, we actually have auto text and emails that you can use as default or you can customize them. But that was always designed for that sole purpose where when you're running a particular ad with a particular message, you need to make sure that the content that you're sending quickly relates to that. It's not generic. Like we've seen where people go wrong is they'll use a CRM with like a pre-built follow-up, but it doesn't have the context of what the ad was that someone clicked on. So there's that disconnect for the consumer. Like if the consumer is interested in a list of properties that say have pools that are under a certain price point in a specific neighborhood, and you start sending them something way over here that makes absolutely no sense, or not even properties, but just some random email, that disconnect will widen and they're just not interested. You need to make sure that you connect those dots very, very quickly. And I think that's just the key to lead generation and having a conversation.
Well, Stephen, I got a question for you because I'm trying to, I'm a lawyer. This isn't really geared to me, but I'm trying to wear my real estate agent hat for now, listening to what you said. And I'd be really excited about this opportunity and how this guy did it and learning the techniques and the technologies available. But there's one thing you said that I would just curious about if I was a real estate agent. You said this guy is spending a fortune on ads. What does that mean?
Well, he isn't spending a fortune on ads. So I thought he was spending a fortune on ads.
Okay. So what does spending a fortune on ads mean, or how do you not have to spend a fortune on ads, and what type of costs are really involved with this? What are the costs you can be avoiding by using this? Maybe that's a better way to frame it.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good question because, you know, when you're running ads or you're generating leads, that's the spending part of the process. And a lot of agents get really fixated on that. And I totally get it because that's where they're spending money. And so they're trying to drive their lead costs down. But really what you should be focusing on before you even drive your lead price down is you need to be focusing first on your conversion rate to a conversation. And because if you make an incremental change in your conversion rate for your leads, you can actually spend a lot more per lead. You can even outbid people and spend even more because ultimately that's where you make money is on the conversion rate. So the first thing that people can actually do to not spend a fortune on leads is to make sure that they are dedicated to the follow-up process and they're dedicated to the fact that if you're going to generate leads, don't generate leads for the sake of generating a lead. You're dedicated to working that lead and turning it into a customer. And you're gonna work on it until you have figured it out. And again, like, you get our system. It's kind of largely there. You have the masterminds, all these other. You can learn from people, but still, people get busy and then go on to the next thing. But you need to make that work. Like that's otherwise your ROI will be zero, or it doesn't, every dollar you spend on ads is really just kind of wasted money. And so the first thing I would say to lower your ad spend and not spend a fortune is just focus on the conversion and be dedicated to it. From that point, then you can start to really work on your ads again. You could lower your cost, but but you could even raise your costs. Like I remember I went to this event once and there was this, I don't know if you guys know a guy named Alex Hormozy, but he's kind of a big name now in the social marketing world. But at that time he was like a nobody. But he was showing everybody at that time, if you really want to win, like you can outbid your competitors, you can win in marketing, you need to know that you can spend more than anybody else for that same lead. And it's a totally different concept. And you can spend more than anybody else because you have a process of turning them into business. Now, obviously, you want to drive your lead cost down. But when you have a process that works, budget becomes irrelevant from that point. You can just start to scale up. And even if your leads are costing you more, you can grow very, very quickly. We've done that even in our business against other competitors for that sole purpose. Like if we can track from beginning to end and what's that ROI and what's that cost to acquire a customer, and you really get that math figured out, then you can actually incrementally spend more and more, even if the margin is decreasing on the ad side, and outpace and grow faster than your competition. So that's kind of a long way of maybe answering your question. Don't know if I really answered it from a fortune standpoint, but you can spend a lot of money on ads and get nothing, or you can spend a little bit of money on ads and get something. It really comes down to if you're first optimizing on that, working those leads.
Stephen, I have two questions. My first question is, should you have the whole entire sales funnel mapped out before starting your first ad? That's my first question. And my second question is, well, you know what? Let's answer that question and we'll go into my second question. My second question was going to be, will your conversion be higher if you really personalize your interaction as opposed
Mm.
to
Yeah,
uh,
great questions.
updated?
So when you say mapped out, I think the answer is yes, but it doesn't have to be as intense as people think. Like I think what I'm really looking for people or agents, what they need to be committed to is just what they're going to do, and they're going to be consistent with it. And so where a lot of agents fails, we don't. You have to also identify what you're good at and what you're not good at. So if you're a solo agent and you're going to do this, you're going to have to do it all. And you need to. So maybe you have a certain time that you're going to phone the leads and you're going to do your process. But if you are not, you can also have somebody else in your team do that. But then you need to be dedicated to that and hold them accountable to doing that job. But I think you just need to determine what it is. Like when a lead comes in, this is what we're going to send them. This is what we're going to do. This is going to be our first 30 days of process, and we're going to stick to it. And that's when you'll see the results. And that's also when you can iterate on it. Where we find, and it's the same for us, entrepreneurs or business owners don't like to grow into pain. So if you don't like something and you don't enjoy doing it, you'll stop doing it, and then the wheels will start to fall off on the whole process. So either identify that if you enjoy doing it or you're dedicated to doing it, or make sure that you have somebody. You can even have an administrator. You can hire ISAs to do it. There's lots of solutions around you, but just predetermine what you're going to do and who's going to do what, and stick to it. So So yeah, you should have a process ironed out, but it doesn't have to be that hard. Like even in the example I gave earlier, he has it's largely automated, but he has two like one call initially, and then he has that text message going out that gets a response that he then follows up with. So second question, personalizing it,
Yes.
absolutely. Again, this is where we see some agents just crush the conversion rate. Instead of sending an automated text message, we have agents that send a video
Mm.
and they just do a quick little video introducing themselves. That's the first thing they send over. You can even have it as an automated video saved. It doesn't have to say their name. It can say, thanks so much for, back to the downsizing ad. I'm going to get working on that right away. I just wanted you to know it's no trouble at all. Whatever you want to say. But again, it just stands out. It's different. It's something that people get. They're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And now they've seen you. And before people work with you, they have to like you, right? Like they gotta like you. And it's just that person's breaking through that a little bit quicker and earlier and sending that video. And then when they follow up with a text message, they've seen them. So absolutely personalization is definitely just increases your conversion rate.
Love it. Love it. A lot of food for thoughts and a lot of things for realtors to consider. Where can realtors get more information? Like, I love the fact that your software takes them through a structured approach to posting ads. Where can they get more information? How can agents get more educated on this? How can they learn more about this? Is it trial and error? Like, what do you suggest?
So I always suggest joining one of our masterminds, and you get access to that by coming to Street Text. And then if you just click our start trial process, our team will reach out and we'll invite you to the masterminds. Again, we don't, you don't have to spend any money on Street Text. You don't have to connect a credit card. You don't have to do any of that, but you'll just kind of get pulled into our ecosystem. It's our easiest way to get you involved and get you connected. And the reason I love the mastermind so much is that then you're involved with people, in a live time that you can actually ask them questions. Like you yourself, you've never even run an ad before. You can hop on and dig into a process or what somebody's doing. And I always think that's the best place to start because you're surrounded by people that are doing it, and success always leaves clues. And if you can follow somebody else's model, you're just going to be that much more likely to have the confidence to execute on it. And then if you have the confidence to execute on it and you see it through, you'll see the result for your business. And that's what everybody's looking to do. Nobody actually wants to run ads and spend money for the sake of spending money. They're looking for that result. They're looking for that outcome of growing their business. And we want to make sure that we can do that. And as a software provider, we can do some of it, but we can't do what agents that are actually using the tool do. Like they're in the field, they're in the trenches doing the work. And so I recommend getting as close to them as possible so that when you use the software, you're just much more likely to have that success that you're looking for.
Love an answer.
Great.
Well, Steve, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us again. We're going to have you on our next podcast where I think we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the future of technology and how agents can really utilize it to make a really big difference in their career. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have you on next time.
Well, thanks again. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is ours.
Thanks, Stephen.